welcome to Teddy's Universe. Hey, welcome to the universe. Hey, welcome to Teddy's Universe. What's going on, y'all? This is episode 4 of the Blackmon Chronicles. And sorry, no cool little intro this week. We back to the regular dig. I had a couple of creative ideas, but I couldn't decide on which one to do, so I ended up doing none, and we ended up going with the regular YouTube intro. Okay, hopefully y'all don't hear like all these birds and stuff chirping in the background. If y'all can hear it, sorry, I apologize. The back door is just out of reach from where I'm recording this. I can't close it. Too late now. If you can't hear it, then just ignore these last 10-15 seconds of me talking about birds chirping. So today I'm gonna be talking about the dating pool, and is it as bad as we think it is, or is there something we can do to improve it, or is it too far gone? Now, obviously this conversation could stretch 30 hours across 30 episodes, but we're not going to do that. I'm just going to drop a couple of tidbits from what's been in my heart and what's been on my brain, stuff that I've had conversations with close friends, family, and that's about it. So I will say that dating in 2025 is difficult at face value, right? But I feel like we make it way more difficult than what it needs to be, because sometimes we're in our own way with things. Sometimes, in my opinion, what I think is one of the biggest problems is we're trying to do things we're not fully prepared to do. So I feel like a lot of people are trying to date even though they're not fully prepared to date. So what I would say is, first and foremost, get your shit together. If you have your shit together, that means you have a ton of experience across multiple fields and life skills. You should be having a ton of experience and being committed to something, because if you have your shit together, it takes commitment, which is a key quality that you're going to need in a relationship. It takes determination. It takes perseverance, because nothing is smooth and nothing is easy, contrary to what people feel like it should be. Shit be difficult, excuse my language. Stuff be difficult, you know what I mean? And you have a lot of people that jump ship as soon as things get difficult, as soon as things don't go their way, as soon as they got to get their hands dirty, people jump ship. So if you're dealing with somebody who has their stuff together, and I guess the only downside to that would be if they have their stuff together and it was given to them and not earned, and then maybe they bypass all the commitment, the perseverance, and all the other like foundational qualities that it takes to appreciate that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I feel like appreciation is lacking in dating. I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate genuine love. They don't appreciate genuine respect. They feel entitled to it. And when you feel entitled to something, it's really hard to appreciate it if you feel entitled to it. Like if you think like the whole world revolves around you, it's kind of difficult to appreciate the whole world. You're not really going to appreciate it because you're expecting it. You know what I mean? And what happens is when you're expecting something, you're quicker to judge it than to appreciate it. So I say that to say, like, as far as the dating pool goes, I know I like to make analogies. I know I'm a numbers guy and stuff like that. I feel like most people, excuse me, are in the shallow end of the pool, because a lot of the things that they're looking for are just shallow. A lot of people are dating for looks. And I'm not, and if that's your prerogative, I'm not saying that's necessarily in itself shallow. But if you want a relationship where you're trying to build and create legacies, you're creating family, you're trying to create generational wealth, then a lot more has to go into it than just maybe looks, or just maybe, somebody that is available. That's another thing I hear all the time. Oh, well, this person had time for me. And just because somebody has time for you, that doesn't mean that, they deserve your time. Like, it really has to be more. I feel like a lot of the times our unrealistic standards are just a reflection of our unrealistic selves. We're not being realistic, so we want the other person to not really be realistic either, but in the opposite spectrum. Because obviously, when we're being unrealistic, it's to give ourselves a huge amount of grace, a huge amount of leniency, et cetera, et cetera. But you want the other person to be perfect. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't make no sense in no aspect. You want a perfect person, but you're not perfect. And then from the reverse spectrum, you're expecting a quote unquote perfect person, which nobody's perfect. You're expecting a quote unquote perfect person to want a non perfect person. In theory, that wouldn't even be possible. Why would a perfect person want a non perfect person? No. Like, if you got your shit together, you should be really pursuing people that have their shit together, because they'll be way more relatable, which is another huge quality, relatability. Um, you have to be able to relate. I have to be able to understand that you understand what it takes to get to a certain level without it being handed to you, without it being given to you because you look good, without you inheriting something, etc., etc. It has to come with the experience, because the more experience a person have, the more realistic they are about things. In my opinion, that's what I've noticed. When people have unrealistic expectations, they tend to not have that much experience when it comes to like whatever the situation at hand is, which obviously today is dating, or at least that's what we're talking about. Um, I really feel like, at the end of the day, I'm single. I know a lot of people don't people be thinking I'm in relationships and shit like that, but I am single, and I don't like to get into like stories about my past and things like that. But I felt like in life, I felt like I have had chances to really nail down a relationship, but I either was young and dumb and took it for granted because, like I stated earlier, I felt entitled. And then now I'm just having a problem with realizing what it is that I'm actually searching for. Obviously, right now, I'm not actively searching to date. I'm focused on basically like my career and accomplishing other goals and dreams at the moment. But I don't have the door closed. If something comes along and it's a proper fit, it makes sense, and it's genuine and it's natural, then I'm all for it. But I'm not like actively pursuing it. Like, I'm not at the lounges mingling like that. I'm not out at the clubs, which I feel like is a bad place to go meet a future significant other anyway, but we'll get into that maybe another day and another time. Um, I'm not out just getting a million bajillion numbers thinking like, hey, she could be a wife, she could be a wife, she could be a wife, she could be a wife. So I'm just focused on bettering myself, just keep trying to improve myself, becoming the best version of myself. So if I do possibly meet somebody that, like I said, it's a natural, genuine fit, then I'll be able to present a version of myself that should be able to help grow things or make things a lot easier depending on what kind of circumstances the person is going through, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like a lot of people aren't necessarily trying to become a better version of themselves because they already feel like they're the best version of themselves, even though they literally have nothing to show for nothing. You just lay around all day, or you're smoking, or you're drinking, or in your mind, you're getting a lot of attention from a lot of women, so you think you're already the stuff, or you're getting a lot of attention from a lot of men, so you think you're already the shit, you know what I'm saying? Excuse my language. And you feel like you don't have to improve on nothing because you're already getting attention. And to you or a random person, attention might have the same value as money. You might view that as the end all be all. It confuses us sometimes. You know, when somebody's overly nice to you, you might think that they like you. You're confused. You could be confused because sometimes that is the case. Somebody likes you, they'll be overly nice. Sometimes a person is just overly nice. You know what I mean? So it's confusing. It can be confusing because you've seen this one action have different meanings, and now you got to decipher what the meaning to that action is. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth, because it's in a million. It's in a million. It's a million examples of basically how one action can have multiple meanings. Because one thing we are excellent at nowadays, especially in big 2025, one thing we are excellent at nowadays is giving words or phrases our own little meanings to benefit us or to benefit our narrative. You know what I mean? So you really have to be on guard on something as little as like basic communication, so you don't misinterpret things, you don't misread things, you don't misjudge things. You think a person, has feelings for you, whole time they don't. Especially if you like the person, you're going to be more inclined to hope that you're going to cling on to that little bit of hope. Maybe they have feelings for you, et cetera, and they don't. It's a lot that goes into the shallow end of pursuing dating. But again, I'll preface it by saying, like, if you have your shit together, or at least close to getting your shit together, or you're trying to get your shit together, you will notice the drastic change in the quality of people that will come into your life. Trust me. Trust me. Trust me. When I was struggling, like I said earlier, when I was struggling, the type of women that I was dealing with were, I'm not going to say they were horrible, but they weren't what I was thinking the type of women I should be dealing with would have been. You know what I mean? But as I slowly started to get myself together, then I noticed women were coming into my life, because it's like you're elevating. So when you hit different levels, it's different level of women. And I'm only using women as an example because I'm a man, and I love women and stuff like that. So I'm quite sure for a woman, the opposite spectrum, it's the same thing, I think. But you'll have to speak to them about it because I'm not sure. But I'm assuming the more you move up in tiers, the more better quality, I guess that's how I want to say it, better quality of person you will meet. Now, just because you're meeting better quality people, that still doesn't mean you're just going to find a relationship or a batch is going to be easy and stuff like that. No, because now it's still a million other things that has to go right. In a perfect world, so many things have to go right to even solidify a relationship, let alone maintain one, sustain one, build on it, create families, create traditions, create legacies and stuff like that. A lot of stuff has to go right. You really have to, like I said, you have to be relatable. You have to understand that it's not some fairy tale. It's gonna be days where you're gonna be angry at this person. It's gonna be days where you're gonna be irritated at this person. But can you still be loyal even though you're angry? Or are you gonna go off and find somebody who's making you happy in the moment? Are you going off your feelings? Are you going off such and such? You saw such and such out at a random place. You saw a random stranger, and they said the right things to you that needed to be said to you that day. So now you're feeling them a little more than you're feeling your partner who's been holding it down with you through thick and thin. And are you willing to stay loyal? Are you willing to stay with unconditional love? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what that takes at the end of the day. Now, I'm not saying you have to be stupid and put up with any and everything, because if a person's cheating, then, you need to get the hell out of town. If a person is abusing you, you need to get the hell out of town. But for other things that's manageable, it's okay to work through things. You know what I mean? So it's a lot that you really could get into. But I would say that if you honestly and genuinely become the best version of yourself, or at least work towards it, you don't have to even be the best version of yourself. If you're working towards it, I really feel like you'll start to understand the true value that you have. And when you understand the true value that you have, you won't accept less. But you have to be realistic in a sense, because you can't want a top tier person and you know damn well you're not bringing nothing to the table. You know what I mean? And I mean, again, I mean, nowadays, I guess you could. I have seen people bring nothing to the table and still get like a top quality person. It never really works out because you have to be compatible, and obviously compatible with more than just the physical attraction of things. Because to me, I really feel like the physical attraction thing is just it's like a glorified lust, in my opinion. Because if that's like your end all be all, you're gonna be chasing that forever. Because you're always gonna see somebody that's gonna be more attractive or on par with attractiveness. You know what I mean? And it's nothing to stop you from constantly pursuing that. It's like chasing money. It's like there's no amount of money that would make you ever be like satisfied. You're always going to keep wanting to get more. There are people on earth that literally have billions of dollars and they still figure out how to make more. They will never spend 1/4 of that money for the rest of their lives. There are people already in their 70s, in their 80s that are billionaires. They will never spend a fraction of that money as long as they live, and they still find the ways to make more. You know what I'm saying? And obviously, if you have a big family, a bunch of kids and stuff like that, then obviously I get it. But there are some of these people that don't have kids. Their bloodline will die when they die, and yet they're still out chasing money because there's no end to that. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing when you go off of like looks and stuff like that. If I like women that have big breasts, which I do. I'm a breast person, so I like girls that have nice breasts. You know what I mean? Now I'm not requiring that in a relationship because I know anything that I like physical is kind of more lust than love. You know what I mean? So even if I run down like my exes, my last two exes were flat chested. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a requirement. I like it, but it's not a requirement because I understand with love, you really have to be more open. And that's what I feel like a lot of people lack nowadays. They're not open to actually finding true love. It's like you have to jump through a bunch of hoops, play a bunch of games, and then if you make it through all of that, now let's see if we can build love. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then now the possibility of building resentment, hostility, because you done drag this person through these Olympic S games just for you to not be shit, or just for you to be like not deliver on your end of the bargain. Your promises aren't kept and stuff like that. And now you're creating resentment. So now you're finally giving in to a person who's jumped through all these hoops and these rings of fire, did all these flips for you, and you're finally going to give them a chance, and now they're about to play you because they feel insulted or they feel disrespected. And a lot of people don't handle things like how I handle things, where 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, when I feel disrespected or when I feel insulted, I won't say nothing in the moment. I might even try to like work it out with you and everything. But when I'm trying to talk things out with said person, in my mind, I already know I'm going to gracefully bow out at some point, and it probably be way sooner than later. You know what I mean? So it's like you really have to stand on business because, like I said last episode of the podcast, humans are creatures of habits. They're creatures of patterns. You know what I mean? Your brain creates patterns to make its job easy because it knows it has a lot of responsibility for running your body, your mind, your subconscious, et cetera, all connected to your brain. So I feel like another reason why things don't necessarily work out in people's favor when it comes to dating nowadays is because we don't have good habits. We don't have good relationship habits. You have to keep these habits, you have to build these habits and patterns before you even get into the relationship. Like if a person wants to play like sports. Let's say I want to play basketball. I can't just show up one day and start trying to play basketball. No, I need to get in some kind of shape because you're going to be running back and forth. You're going to have to learn how to shoot a basketball. There's like the basics that you're going to have to get down pat. So when you get into it, it's going to be rough regardless. The adjustment from going from being single to being in a relationship is going to be a change regardless. And a lot of people think that you could just like flip a switch. You know what I'm saying? And you can't do that. You got to have good habits. In order to be successful, you don't just become successful. You got to have successful habits. You got to have successful patterns. And over time, the more you stick to those habits and routines, the results will tend to be more successful than not. You'll still have bad days. You'll still take L's. Nothing, like I said, nothing is 100% perfect. Nothing will ever be 100% perfect. But if you have those winning habits, eventually you're going to win. And I feel like a lot of people, they're selfish, and then they think they're going to flip a switch as soon as they get into a relationship. And for a little bit, it might work. The person might have on a facade. Or I won't even say it's a facade. A person might genuinely be trying to, like, really trying to be full in on a relationship. But what happens is, again, your brain is running off of patterns and routines, is that when you get angry or when y'all have an argument or when y'all not talking, then you'll slowly revert back to what you were before the relationship. Now, if you had these qualities before the relationship, then you probably won't change. Eventually, you're just going to try to work it out because it's in your nature. You're going to communicate because that's who you are. You're going to show leniency because that's who you are. You're going to be understanding because that's who you are. Now, if you were a knucklehead, you're going to tend to revert back to being a knucklehead. If you were ultra petty, you're going to tend to start playing mind games and be ultra petty again. And at that point in time, the relationship will be over. It might last longer than, that, but once you start to mentally check out, because somebody's going to start to mentally check out. Once mind games and stuff are starting to be played, somebody's going to mentally start to check out, and it's only a matter of time before then. You know what I'm saying? Another thing I think is a problem, which is probably one of the most obvious problems, is that there are a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing that say they want to date because from a man's perspective to a woman, I'm a man, speaking to some women, is that a lot of guys are pretending they want to date just to have sex with women. I'm not sure if women do the same. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I don't even know if guys fall for stuff like that. But from my perspective to the women, yes, I know there is like a lot of men that are faking the front because they know that's what's going to get them to have sex with you. And what women have to understand, and I think a lot of them do understand, is if a man is hell bent on having sex with you, he will literally damn near do anything to get on top of you. There is nothing he won't do. I tell my close friends stories and stuff all the time from a past life of mine where I would fake a relationship. When I was young, I could give away 9 months. I could give away a year if I know we gonna be fucking. And whole time I don't want nothing to do with you. Like we've been together for almost a year. I know you're in it, and I know eventually the heartbreak is coming. But I'm on a mission to get what I gotta get from you, and then you're just creating another monster that you hope you don't run into again down the line. Simple as that. It's a big wide world. You're hoping you're just going to throw this person back into the world, and you're going to carry on. Now, obviously, I don't know if y'all believe in karma or not. I do because I believe in God. And even if you don't believe in God for real, you believe in the universe. It's the same concept, kind of like different terminologies. So I'm a big person that believes in the what goes around comes around type of scenario. So definitely what goes around comes around. I will say that. So that's why it's important to just stay genuine and stay natural and stay as positive as you can, because there is a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing. There are a lot of people um taking the front. I will say another thing that in my heart I believe is the problem. A lot of people think social media is like a problem, and it is, because social media, while it is ultra positive and beneficial, either too much of it or digesting it the wrong way can make it a negative thing. Um, I think social media has given people the false mindset that they have a lot of options, and they get a lot of options because you might get a lot of likes on your pictures, a lot of hearts, a lot of heart eyes. You might get a lot of DMs, and I think people mistakenly. I'm not even gonna say mistakenly, but I think people equate like the lust as love. Because most of the times you're really just being lusted over. And this is for men and women. Not this. I'm not specifying this to a single gender on this particular topic. But this is for men and women. A lot of people on social media, you're being lusted over. Because there's no way to really form a genuine connection through a screen. Like you're just it's your eyes. When you're forming a genuine connection, you're using a lot of most of all your senses. And obviously, the sense of taste is another thing. That's an intimate setting down the line. But as far as like touch, seeing, hearing, smelling, etc., you're using your senses to build a genuine connection. When you're looking through a screen, you're just looking. And again, like I said earlier, I know people won't like to admit it, but like looks is more lust than it is love. It could catch your eye, and maybe true love does come from it. You can't never rule that out. But for the most part, people are just scrolling, admiring the beauty, and then at least from a guy's perspective, I can speak on our behalf. You start romanticizing certain things. And unfortunately nowadays, you not really when you're looking on a screen and you're seeing a pretty face or you're seeing big titties, you're seeing a big butt, you're seeing thick thighs, you're seeing these tight dresses, you're seeing these skirts, you're seeing these heels, you're seeing these push up bras and all this type of stuff. You're seeing these different color wigs. Yeah, wigs, you're seeing these hairstyles. You're not really romanticizing this woman being a wife. You're really just fantasizing about having sex with this woman or what sex would be like with this woman. You know what I'm saying? And then you start to try your hand and you understand it's a bunch of other guys that's probably trying their hand, so you got to do what you got to do to stand out. And this is when the game of being inauthentic really kicks into high gear. And that's what I feel like is another bad thing with social media. It's easy for everybody to be like not authentic. When you meet people in person, you're already getting a good gauge on a person's life, because obviously they're not going to tell you, humongous details of what would be red flags and stuff like that. But there are no filters. There's no basic things that you can hide. You're getting a genuine look at a person as soon as you meet them. Obviously, all the wigs and makeup and blah blah blah. I really don't be counting that stuff sometimes, because that's just what females do. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't really count that. But there's you're conversating with a person, so you're getting a sense of a person's IQ. Where online you're just basically saying what kind of memes this person posts. If you're not having conversations with them, you're seeing what this person finds funny. It's basically you're basically learning from a highlight reel, and in person you're getting the experience of a full game. You're getting the first quarter, you're getting the person in the second quarter, you're getting the person in the third quarter and fourth quarter. You're not really gonna get that online. Now, some people you will see their full range of personality online. You will see sometimes a person being happy. You will see sometimes a person being sad. But for the most part, you're always gonna get the happy version of a person. Where I feel like in person, if you're having a bad day, I'm going to see that. If you're sad, I'm going to see that. If you're happy, I'm going to see that. You're not going to be able to hide the mood no matter how hard you try, because I can see it in a person's eyes, body language, etc., etc. So I understand like the differences in in-person interactions and social media. Um, I'm more of a person that I feel like if we met on social media, I don't really, when I'm on social media, I'm not really looking at women as like potential wives unless I knew them before social media or off of social media first. You know what I mean? And because I feel like, again, I feel like there's no way to truly know like the authenticity of a person through social media. And I feel like if I meet you through the facade first, I feel like you're just going to keep up the facade. And by the time you realize it's a facade, it'll be too late. That's a thing too. You know what I'm saying? Now you done invested all this time, all these feelings. You done invested all like these resources into a person, and turns out they're not nothing like you thought they were. They're not nothing like they said they were. They wanted you to stand on all this business, and they've been sitting down the entire time. So I really feel like, again, I'm a numbers person. I feel like you have to go by the odds with a lot of things, and I feel like people are starting to wake up and realize that. But you have to really play the odds. Don't play games. Play the odds. If you've been in a situation multiple times and the situation has ended up the exact same results, and you see yourself seeing that situation happen again, do not think you're better. Do not think like, oh, this is a different scenario this time around. No, you have to be smart. And that's another point. We have to be more smarter at understanding what's going on, when it's going on, and stop clinging to the fact that you really like that person. So you're going to give that person leniency. You're going to give that person grace. You're going to blur like the reality. And now you're going off the perception is reality thing. You're going to, your perception of a person is way different than the reality of a person. Your idea of the person, which is another thing I feel like gets us in trouble, is we have this idea of people that we like versus like processing the reality of them. And don't get it twisted. Sometimes the reality of a person is just as good, if not on par, if not even way better than the idea we have of them. And that's a dangerous feeling too, especially if they want no parts to do with us. You know what I'm saying? Um as I spoke on the last podcast, obviously chasing people and willing to become something you're not to try to gain people's approval. It's so many different circumstances and scenarios that we kind of just, I guess, what could have been a long story short is like we self sabotage. You know what I'm saying? And some of us do it purposely. Some of us do it and it don't be on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody has like an instruction book on this. Nobody has a manual. Nobody has like the absolute true definition of love. Everybody's version of love is different. Everybody's version of a relationship is different. But unfortunately, what we're pursuing, I mean, where we're pursuing it at, you're in a building where everybody's looking for something different, but it has the same title. Hey, we're all trying to date, but what does dating mean to you? Oh, dating means this to me. That's not my definition of dating. So, you know what I'm saying? And it's just a lot of things that, and like I said, I'm not going to even get into everything. Like I said, this could stretch for 25 hours across a bajillion episodes. But it's just a lot of things that we tolerate from people that we shouldn't be tolerating, that we allow ourselves to get used by people, and you shouldn't be doing that. One more important point that I'm going to speak on is that a lot of people also just don't like good people. Like everybody says they want a good person, but if you watch actions, they don't want good people. If you hear women talk, women like the bad boys. When you hear men talk, men want bad bitches. Like bad and bad. The results are going to be bad. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, I don't like to spill too much about my own life, but I will say this. I have a problem because I love women with bad attitudes. Like I love it. I really love it. But it's proven time and time again that it's really not good for me. So I am making a conscious effort now to reshape like my mental. I've been working on that for about the past 6 7 months. I want to say since last October. So that's October 2024. It is now April 2025. So however many months that is, I think that's about 6 months almost. If not 6 months, then yeah, I've been reworking my mental to basically kind of fix the type of woman I'm attracted to. Because if I want a strong, healthy relationship that's genuine, those are the type of women that I need to be attracted to. Is healthy, genuine, positive women, and not women who I think are brats, and because I love brats, you know what I'm saying? Or they got bad attitudes, or they feel so entitled, they got to be spoiled and stuff like that. It's just proven not to be working. So stepping out my comfort zone to change my mentality and mindset on that, which I feel like a lot of people should also try stepping out the comfort zone. But people got a lot of pride and ego. I've seen tons of people, guys, women, that if they can't have the type of person that they want, they just won't date at all. You know what I'm saying? No adjustments, no whatever. They just won't date at all. They'd rather be alone for the rest of their lives and say stuff like, "Oh well, I don't need love" and stuff like that. Then why was you looking for it all this time? Now you don't need it. No, you. I mean, I'm not gonna say you need it. You wanted it though. You wanted it for sure. We all want love. We're human. We all want love. Why you think we're chasing it so much? You know what I'm saying? How do you think we all know that the dating pool is quote unquote horrible? Because we're all trying. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that notion and the notion, which probably be my last little piece here, the notion of not settling, it's always confusing to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like people say they not settling to use that as an excuse to have to justify the unrealistic expectations that they have. Because if you want to be technical, and y'all know I'm a technical person, we're all kind of settling. Unless you marry like your first love, then you're settling. You're super settling. Because the first person we all ever fell in love with, that's who we wanted to be with for the rest of our lives. Now, if you're still with that person, first and foremost, thank God, because you're blessed. But if you're not with that person no more, then you're picking somebody that you didn't want to be with at first, or you would have picked them. Even if you didn't, I mean, obviously, if you didn't know them at the time, that's different. But it's still a person that you had no plans on being with. You had an idea of a person you wanted to spend the rest of your life with. You had that first pick, that first round draft pick, and it didn't work out. So you are settling. You're settling regardless. You know what I'm saying? Now, I know people like to use it to their benefit and to fit their narrative and stuff like that. But from my opinion, from my perspective, from my perspective, it just makes you look like kind of inauthentic. Which is why I want to end this like this, right? Everything that I just talked about, I think we're approaching 40 minutes or whatever. Everything I just talked about is a bunch of complications of what's going wrong or why dating is so difficult. But like I said in the tail beginning of this, that if you have your shit together and you look for a person who also has their shit together, I think a lot of these problems will literally fall by the wayside because they're so in the shallow end of the pool that if you can make it to the deep end, I feel like things will be a little bit smoother. So a lot of people are in the shallow end because they're scared to swim. If you're not scared to swim, you'll be rewarded for it. Now that might take a little time as well because again, nothing is perfect and everything takes time. But more than likely, if you got your head on straight and you know what you're looking for, you're gonna find it. No matter what your standards are, no matter what your little prerequisites are, and don't be online or in person or whatever. Keep shouting out your standards and stuff because, like I said earlier, with the wolves in sheep's clothing, you invite the wolves to put on sheep's clothing when you keep saying what your standards are. Like I've sat back in my life before in the past life. I've sat back and watched girls that I used to like be on Facebook saying what they wanted from a guy, and then I would give it a couple of months, and then I would just start randomly talking to the girl, being everything that she says she wants. You make it easy to be taken advantage of. You know what I'm saying? Like me, I know what I'm looking for in a woman. The only thing you ever heard me say online about the type of woman I like is if she's funny. She just has to be funny. But there's other things that has to happen as well. I just won't say it because then you invite the wolves in sheep's clothing. You know what I'm saying? So protect yourself. Give yourself the best chance of being successful in the dating world. Try your best to have all your shit together so you can avoid all the drama. You can tell off bucks who's serious and who's not. If a person has their shit together, they're more inclined to be serious. If a person is close to having it, because I don't want to keep making it seem like you gotta have your shit together. If a person is close to having their shit together, you'll tend to take other people who have their shit together or close more serious. And that's what it all boils down to. Taking other people serious and making sure you're being taken serious. Because if not, then you get the big Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circus that we got today. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I know I missed a lot of points, but I just had to get that off my heart on a lot of things that I feel is like wrong nowadays and how we can like fix that. If you want to, you can put like some points you want to make in the comments or something like that. Obviously, I'm gonna ask y'all to like, comment, share, subscribe if y'all not subscribed. This has been episode 4 of the Teddy Blackmon Chronicles, and I will see y'all next week or whenever episode 5 comes out. Peace.